Okay, we are ready to go.
Good afternoon. My name is Tom Sunderman, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Historic Conservation Board. I would like to take a minute to remind everyone about the rules of this proceeding. This proceeding is all times governed by the rules of procedure adopted by the board on September 26, 2011, and amended on March 23, 2015, last amended March 9th, 2020. A copy of the rules of procedures is available for review online. All those planning to testify today, which does not include those solely making arguments, such as attorneys, will be asked to take an oath, which will be administered by the board's attorney. This is a quasi-judicial hearing. As such, the board reserves the right to deliberate in private. The Ohio rules of evidence do not apply to this hearing. However, professional rules of conduct do apply, and candor to the tribunal is required. The board members are citizens volunteers and are not paid for their service. They are treated as public officials under Ohio law. Any attempt to influence them, including but not limited to bribery, intimidation, retaliation, which may include contacting their employer, and attempt to exert influence, is punishable as a crime. All should be aware that this meeting is being tape recorded. Therefore, please speak clearly into your microphone and state your name and address for the record. In the event of any technical difficulties with the video conferencing technology, I may continue or postpone this hearing at my discretion. All participants providing testimony must have both camera and audio features turned on in order to participate. With that said, let's go on to the first item. Item number 1 is 438 Elizabeth Street. Mr. Owens.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Item number 1, as you said, 438 Elizabeth Street is in the Betts Longworth Historic District, and the applicant is proposing a new deck on the side elevation of the building. So the application requires a certificate of appropriateness for the deck, as well as zoning relief for a side yard setback. It is a dimensional variance of 16.25 feet to allow a minimum side yard setback of 3.75 feet, which is short of the required 20 feet. And I'm sorry, that actually should read the rear setback. It's the rear setback that they need relief for, not the side. So let me share my screen here. Okay, so this is the location of the current property. It spans 3 separate parcels, and the yellow box towards the rear is the proposed location of the new deck. And you can see that more clearly on an image from the applicant in this center photo. This is an existing garden structure, and the deck will be placed behind that. There's a small deck coming off that side entry door. That deck will be removed, and the new deck will be placed there with a hot tub inset into the corner of the deck. So regarding the zoning relief, staff does feel that the proposed placement is appropriate from a zoning standpoint. It is within that rear yard setback requirement. However, the existing building is legally non-conforming in its existing rear yard setback, and the new deck is going to be placed in a location that basically extends the existing plane of that rear wall on further out to the east to provide the deck. So because the existing building is non-compliant with the doorway exiting out, there's no way to exit from the doorway directly onto the deck if the rear yard setback is observed. So staff does feel that that is appropriate for the zoning relief. And regarding the certificate of appropriateness, staff also feels that this is appropriate. The deck will not be placed on a street facade, and it will be to the rear of the lot. It won't obscure any architectural features, and while it will be minimally visible from Elizabeth Street, it will not be highly obvious to the passersby. So with that being said, staff recommends the Historic Conservation Board take the following actions based on the undated plan submitted by the applicant. Approve the dimensional variance of 16.25 feet to allow a minimum side rear yard setback, of 3.75 feet short of the required 20 feet. And staff also recommends approval of the certificate of appropriateness for 438 Elizabeth Street, including any revisions submitted for permit subject to staff review and approval, with the condition that the building permits must be issued within 2 years of the decision date or the COA shall expire.
Okay. We have a couple of witnesses for that item. Nicole and Vinod Goria.
Hi, welcome.
Hi.
Hi. Before I take any comments or testimony from you, just need to have you sworn in. So if each of you could raise your right hand, need you to answer out loud. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. What would you like to tell us?
I think he covered it all actually in our application. That's we thank you guys for your consideration, and we would just love to extend a deck that's in very bad and unsafe condition to something that's usable for our family and for neighbors and friends.
Okay.
We have neighborhood support that was given during the pre-hearing for the neighbor that's directly behind us that would have the most impact from the deck and view. He was trying to join this, but I'm not sure if he made it on. We were all having trouble. Stephen?
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you.
Oh, hey.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, no, he
Sorry.
has signed up to testify. Are you finished, Ms. Gorla?
I'm finished. Thank you.
Okay, then Stephen, let's say let's keep this on a casual basis. I'll just call you Stephen because I don't know how to pronounce your last name.
No worries, sir.
Stephen, would you like to add anything? If so, I'll need to swear you in.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah, sure. I'll get sworn in. I don't have much to add, but no problem.
You solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What have you got there?
I apologize for being late. I did miss the presentation, but I have gone to the pre-hearing. I've been in contact with the folks, Mr. and Mrs. Gorla, and I have no concerns or issues with the plans as shown in the drawings. I just would like to add my support. They're great neighbors, and no issues with them adding the extended deck. From my point of view, being the resident directly behind them to the, what is that, the north at 437 Chestnut Street is my house. So I think that's the only real property that would be affected, which it's not really being affected. So I'll square it away, and I have no issues.
Okay. Do we have any questions from the board for either staff or applicants? Hearing none, I'd take a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll move that we approve the dimensional variance and the certificate of appropriateness for this property as identified by staff in their notes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. I'll take the vote. Mr. Weiss,
Yes.
Mr. Salasco,
Aye.
Ms. McKenzie. Ms. McKenzie, I saw you mouthing it, but you weren't.
No.
Okay, and I vote yes also. Okay, so now we turn to item number 2, which is 1303 to 1309 Regent Avenue. Mr. Owens?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I'll share my screen again here. Okay, this is for an application for certificate of appropriateness for 1303 as well as 1309 Regent Avenue. There's one staff report written for both of these properties. So I think they are item 2 and 3 on the agenda. I have them all under the same staff report. So
Okay.
this is in the Old Bond Hill Historic District, and the applicant is asking for approval for the certificate of appropriateness to construct 2 new buildings on these lots. There are existing vacant lots now, and the applicant is proposing 2 new buildings that will each have 2 units in them. So it'll be basically townhouses or 2-family buildings built across these lots. So there is no zoning relief required for this. It does meet all of the zoning requirements. And you can see on the historic Sanborn, this is from 1950. It shows that on at least one of these lots, there was a similarly configured historic building that has since been demolished. That was also serving as a 2-family. 1303 had a single-family residence, but it was in a similar footprint based on these Sanborn maps. And let me bring up the plans. So here you can see the vacant lots at the corner. And here's the proposed site plan showing the building straddling the lot line with 1 unit on each side and a concrete drive for a surface parking space on each side of the building. And that is basically repeated for the other set of lots, so that these 2 buildings will be basically identical in their design and placement on the building, on the lot. And I have the full analysis for the certificate of appropriateness in the staff report. So I'll just hit on some of the highlights here, but basically the buildings are proposed with brick on the front with a wood frame porch for each unit. The side and the rear of the building will have a narrow hardy plank lap siding. And staff does feel these materials are appropriate in this district. There's a variety of both brick as well as wood frame structures in the district. So staff doesn't have an issue with having both the materials proposed for this building, especially considering the buildings across the street from the side of the building as well as behind the building are both wood frame buildings, which is where that siding would be most visible. And you can see that also on the rendering here. So as far as the form and scale and height of these buildings, it is compatible with the district. They are a similar footprint as many of the buildings in the district, and the district does specifically refer to the presence of double houses in the district, which are basically 2-family buildings. There are still several of those in the vicinity of this, and the proposed buildings here are in a similar scale as the existing buildings in that district. So there's also a preponderance of front porches that are similar to this proposed here. So staff has no issues with the detailing, the form, scale, or height. Setbacks, again, are also compatible. Generally, these buildings have fairly decent sized setbacks just because of the nature of the district. So obviously the buildings on the interior lots do have larger rear yard setbacks just because they are on deeper lots. But for the corner buildings, if that lot reached all the way back to the alley like the rest of the buildings on the street, the rear setback would be similar. So staff does feel that the setbacks do meet the intent of the guidelines. So staff feels that the proposed new construction is compatible with the contributing buildings in the district, but is not imitative, as it is contemporary in design. So staff recommends the Historic Conservation Board take the following actions based on plans submitted by Studio B Architects dated 4/27/22. that they approve a certificate of appropriateness for 1303 Regent Avenue per the submitted plans, including any revisions submitted for permit subject to staff review and approval, with the condition that the building permits must be issued within 2 years of the decision date or the CUA shall expire. And then for 1307 to 1309, staff also recommends approval of the certificate of appropriateness for the submitted plans, with the same condition that the building permits must be issued within 2 years of the decision date or the CUA shall expire.
Okay. We have some people signed up to testify. Anyone that's testifying will have to be sworn in. I'd first, I forgot, does anybody, oh, well, never mind. Todd Yobi,
Yes, sir.
would you please raise your right hand?
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, what would you like to add?
I honestly, I don't have a great deal to add. I appreciate Mr. Owen's summary. I think it was pretty accurate to what we're proposing for this site. These projects are part of the Port Authority's infill housing effort. These are the first of several projects that we have planned throughout the city. And we're excited about it, and we appreciate the board's consideration for these particular homes.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Robb?
She was
Yes.
not able to join.
Oh,
She
I'm
is.
actually here. I signed on the Amy's computer.
Okay. Would you please raise your right hand?
Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, what would you like to add?
I too am very excited about this project and very appreciative of the recommendation by staff to approve. I did have 2 questions, though, actually 1 question with regards to the windows and the siding. I wanted to know if the windows definitely have to be wood windows and if the siding definitely has to be hardy plank. I know that Habitat recently did some homes on that street, and they have vinyl windows and vinyl siding on the sides. These are part of our affordable housing program. And so the adding hardy plank on this project will increase the price and require us to apply for a lot more grants to be able to cover the gap. So just a question, it's not a deterrent to doing the project, but just a question to see if that was allowable to change it to vinyl siding and vinyl windows, but keep everything else the same.
Mr. Owen, would you address that?
It would be staff's recommendation that we not allow vinyl. Just being in the historic district, vinyl is not a material that is ever recommended for approval, and it's clear in the guidelines that it is not expected to be in the district. So we would recommend that the board keep the aluminum clad wood windows as well as the hardy plank siding.
Okay,
If they wanted to make a formal change, Mr. Owen, they would need to amend the application and come back through. Is that correct?
I believe so, because it has been gone through the process.
Yeah.
Through the pre-hearing and everything else showing these materials. So yeah, I think it would need to be tabled or however that would be handled, but I don't think that could be
Yeah. So
done
Ms.
at this point.
Thanks, Mr. Owen. So Ms. Robb, yeah, ultimately the decision would lie with the board, but they just don't have it in front of them today. So there would need to be an amendment to the application. So if that's something you would like to ask the board to consider, we could table this item.
I don't want to table it. It will delay the project a lot more. And these are ARPA dollars that we're trying to utilize, and we have a time frame when we have to utilize these dollars.
All right. Okay.
Hey, Mr. Owen, it wasn't clear to me. Does it specifically say in the old Bond Hill historic guidelines? I know it does in Over the Rhine, but does it exclude vinyl windows and vinyl siding specifically in that?
I don't.
Or I kind of got the impression we're going off of what we've traditionally done.
Yeah,
Maybe.
I don't have them open right in front of me. I don't think it does specifically prohibit vinyl, but it does say that the types of materials, their color, texture, scale, and detailing should be compatible with those of the district and or the original building.
Right.
Since both brick and narrow clapboard siding are used in the district, both would be acceptable materials for new construction. So I don't believe it explicitly prohibits that, but generally that's a standard rule for any historic project is vinyl is not appropriate.
I do know that a block away, there are, I think, 2 Habitat houses that do have vinyl siding in the same street.
Well, we have this application in front of us. And if you would like to say that you would like to amend that in some way, then we would have to postpone it. And no, okay.
That would only be 30 days. Is that correct, Tom? I mean, if
that I don't know. David, can you answer that question?
I believe that it would. I believe that it would likely be 30 days. But I don't know if we could get it on for the next hearing yet. I think we might be past the deadline for that. So I think it would probably be 30 days.
Nope. Okay. Ms. Rob's shaking her head no. All right. Done deal. Does anybody else on the board have any questions they'd like to ask? David, do I have to get 2 votes for item 2 and then another one for item 3, or can we do them both on one vote?
I believe you can do them both on one vote.
Okay. That having been said, I will accept the motion.
Mr. Vice Chair, I'll move that we approve the certificate of appropriateness for both 1303 Regent Avenue and the 1309 to 1311.
Second.
All right. I'll take the roll call. Mr. Weiss,
Yes.
Mr. Salasco,
Aye.
Ms. McKenzie,
Aye.
Vice Chairman votes yes. So that's passed. We go on to item 4, which is 2012 Colerain Avenue. Mr. Owen?
So just so we're clear, because I think on some of the case materials that were submitted on the website, the item numbers are not consistent. So if we could go by address specific at this point, I believe that item number
3 was just for 1901. And
Item 4 is 1901 Bay Miller.
on the agenda, item number 4 is 1901 Bay Miller.
Item 3 is it. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's the item numbers.
When it printed up, it said item 4 on the top of it.
Let's just go by address numbers.
Okay, we're due Bay Miller.
All right,
Mr.
thank
Owen?
you. Yes, thank you. And I apologize for that. That's my mistake on I did both the Regent Avenues under the same item number, so that was my mistake. So as far as 1901 Bay Miller, this is an application for a certificate of appropriateness and zoning relief in the Dayton Street Historic District. And this is a proposal to rehabilitate an existing vacant building into a mixed-use building with apartments on the upper floors and the rear of the ground floor, and a limited service eating and drinking establishment in the first floor storefront. All right, so This is the location of the building on the corner of Bay Miller and York Street. And an image of its current condition. Has been vacant for some time. The building was gutted on the interior, so there is nothing remaining of the original partitions between the different apartment units. So basically, from a zoning standpoint, because the building was gutted, it had abandoned its previous residential density. So a density variance is required. The applicant is proposing 7 units within the building. And at 1,200 square feet of, so they're proposing a density of 7 units with 336 square feet of lot area per unit. As it stands, only 1 unit would be permitted within the building because it is 1,200 square feet of lot area. So the density will only allow 1 unit by right. So they are asking for a numerical variance for the density. They are asking for a use variance to allow the 970 square foot limited eating and drinking establishment. Because this is in a residential zoning district, RM 1.2, eating and drinking establishments are not permitted. So a use variance is required for that. They're also asking for a numerical variance of 14 spaces to allow 0 parking spaces, which is short of that requirement of 14 spaces for the combined commercial and residential uses in the building. And finally, they are asking for 2 variances related to signage. They're asking for a numerical variance to allow 2 identification signs on the building in excess of the 1 that's permitted, and a dimensional variance of 13.5 square feet to allow the second sign to have that square footage. So from a zoning standpoint regarding the variances, staff does feel that it is appropriate to allow a commercial use in the first floor storefront, as this was originally a sort of a corner store building that had commercial space on the ground floor. According to old city directories, it was a confectioner. It was also a grocery store for a time. And the applicant is now proposing a limited eating and drinking establishment within the storefront space. So staff does feel that that is an appropriate use, as it was originally intended as a mixed use building. And staff does not feel that the addition of that use would create any adverse effects on the neighboring property owners. There's a similar property directly across the street that was recently granted approval for a coffee shop at 1900 Bay Miller. And this use would be similar to that. Staff would recommend that restrictions on alcohol sales be permitted to ensure that no adverse effects are created in the future. And then staff also feels that the density is appropriate in this building, 7 units within the building. The building originally had at least 5 units based on city directory research, and possibly 6. So staff does not feel like an addition of 1 unit to its historic density would create any adverse effects. 336 square feet of lot area per unit is in the line of other density variances that have been granted by the board. So staff does feel that that is appropriate. Regarding the parking that is required for the space, there is no parking on site currently. Historically, the building did not have any parking, and staff does not feel that requiring parking in this instance would be beneficial to the district, as there is no location on site to add the parking, and the only viable way of providing parking would be likely to demolish another building within the vicinity to provide off-street parking for this use. So staff does not feel that the addition of those 14 cars to the street would rise to the level of an adverse effect, as there appears to be significant street parking available during most times of the day on both of these streets, Bay Miller and York. And finally, regarding the signage, the applicant is proposing to have signage that would be on the storefront area above the entry to the door to that commercial space. And then they would also like a second sign that is on the York Street side of the building. This storefront wraps around at the front corner onto York Street. So having that additional identification signage on the side of the building would be helpful for the business to ensure that it is viable. So staff does feel that the variance for the number of signs and the size of that signage is appropriate. Regarding the certificate of appropriateness, the main work that is going on in the building is related to the renovation of the vacant building and the vacant and boarded up storefront area. So the applicant is proposing new windows throughout the building, as well as a new storefront system with a low knee wall along the ground and a glass glazing with an aluminum storefront system within. So staff does feel that those are all appropriate changes to the building. And we have received 4 letters from neighboring property owners in the district that are supportive of the property's redevelopment. We have not received any letters of opposition that I'm aware of at this time. So with that all being said, staff recommends the Historic Conservation Board take the following actions based on the plan submitted by Envisage Architecture dated 12/31/2021. To approve the use variance request to allow a commercial space of 975 square feet to be used as a limited eating and drinking establishment with the following conditions. Alcohol sales shall not be permitted at the site. The establishment shall close by 11 p.m. 7 days a week, and no outdoor areas or other outdoor entertainment are approved as a part of this request. We also recommend approval of the numerical variance for the proposed density of 7 units at 336 square feet of lot area per unit in excess of the 1 unit limit at 1,200 square feet. We recommend approval of the numerical variance of 14 parking spaces to allow 0 parking spaces. And we recommend approval of the numerical variance of 1 to allow 2 identification signs in excess of the 1 permitted. Recommend approval of the dimensional variance of 13.5 square feet to allow a second identification sign of 13.5 square feet in excess of the 0 permitted. Staff also recommends approval of the certificate of appropriateness for 1901 Bay Miller, including any revisions submitted for permits subject to staff review and approval with the condition that the building permits must be issued within 2 years of the decision date or the COA shall expire.
Okay, thank you very much. We have some people signed up. Sarah Kleiner.
It looks like we have several folks signed up to testify on this one. If we could have everyone who intends on providing any testimony on this take the oath at the same time. So if there's anyone who wants to testify on this, if they could unmute now and raise their right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you.
Okay, so we have Wendy and Sarah sworn.
It's Wendy and Sarah. Okay. Sarah, would you like to add something?
I'm very happy with the report, with the staff report. I would just like to add that Tony and Means are both successful business owners who have other businesses have done very well. They care about the neighborhood and the community. And Means, Cameron, actually was raised in the neighborhood. So this is more than just a business for them. This is something that they can give back to the community.
Okay. Wendy, would you like to add something?
I think Sarah said it all. It's exciting to see economic development in the West End, and we really want to see this happen so that we can help continue to lift and stabilize the area.
Okay, Mr. Jones, would you like to add something?
No, sir, I will not. Just thank you for giving us this opportunity as well. We're very excited about this project. That's all I got. Thank you, sir.
I think that's everybody. If not, would raise your hand. I can see you. No?
That's all.
Any questions from the board to staff or any of the witnesses? No? Okay. I would just like to say, when I went down to look at this property, I was really impressed with how nice the neighborhood was. And I think, this is obviously not a good looking building at this exact moment, but I'm sure it will be. And I think that it's going to be a big improvement for what is already a very nice neighborhood. That having been said, I'll accept a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to approve the use variance and the certificate of occupancy.
Appropriateness, okay.
Appropriateness, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. McKenzie, all right, we'll take the vote. Mr. Weiss?
Yes.
Mr. Zelasco?
Aye.
Ms. McKenzie?
Aye.
And the vice chair votes aye also.
Just to be clear, Mr. Vice Chair, and Herb, there is a dimensional variance in that report also. I didn't know if.
I said the use variance.
Okay.
Oh,
Bob, I think I agree with you.
Okay.
I think it would behoove us to clean that up. So
okay.
Perhaps a
Mr.
motion
Weiss?
to approve the zoning relief and the certificate of appropriateness as recommended by staff.
that's okay.
Done. Let's retake that vote. Mr. Weiss?
Yes.
Mr. Zelasco?
Aye.
Ms. McKenzie?
Aye.
I vote aye. That's passed. So we go to the next item, which is 2012 Colerain Avenue. Mr. Owens?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. So this is an application for a certificate of appropriateness for 2012 Colerain Avenue, which is in the Dayton Street Historic District. And the application is for the demolition of the existing contributing building within the district. So you can see on the screen, this is an image from the auditor from 2015. It is several years ago, but you can see from that condition, from that photo, the condition that the building was in at that point in time, and it has not improved since then. So the applicant is proposing to demolish the building, and the vacant land would subsequently be consolidated with the neighboring parcel at 2010 Colerain to create additional yard and courtyard space per the port's lot to yard program. So the current owner is the Port Authority of Cincinnati, and they do have a contract with the neighboring property owner at 2010 Colerain Avenue to take possession of that property, assuming that the certificate of appropriateness is approved. They have submitted documentation based on an economic hardship showing that the property is not viable for redevelopment based on its existing condition. And that has also been reviewed by the Department of Community and Economic Development, who has also submitted a report on the feasibility of the rehabilitation of this building. Both of those analyses show that the property is not viable, either as a single family residence or as a two-family. And that does take into account the potential for historic tax credits and other economic incentives. So basically, based on these analyses, the denial of the requested COA would deprive the property of its economic use and would likely result in a sustained vacancy and blight and decrease the overall well-being of the neighborhood and by extension, the city. So I think I will leave it at that. The analysis in the staff report, as well as the economic analysis from both the applicant, the port, and community and economic development are in the packet with much more detailed information. So staff would just say that the provided analyses for the stabilization and renovation of the building for single and two-family uses neither would produce a reasonable rate of return, even when including potential awards of state and local tax credits. Also, the applicant did not deliberately neglect maintenance of the property and has not created or exacerbated the economic hardship. And finally, that Department of Community and Economic Development has conducted their independent analysis of the applicant's materials and potential redevelopment of the building and concluded that the project would not be financially feasible should the COA be denied. So staff does recommend the Historic Conservation Board take the following action: approve a certificate of appropriateness to demolish the building at 2012 Colerain Avenue.
Okay, thank you very much. We have some people signed up. Amber Frame,
That's me.
would you please raise your right hand to be sworn in?
If I could have Ms. Bancroft also unmute.
Okay, and there's also a Vernon Calloway signed up.
I do not believe he's with us. I believe it's just.
Okay, so those two people?
That's correct. So if you could each raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear the testimony you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Thank you.
Okay, let's start off with Ms. Frame. What would you like to add?
I am the owner of 2010 Colerain. I really actually didn't want this property, but I had my roof fixed, and that house is laying on my house. So that's how this happened. This all happened. So they were like, you got to get rid of that house. You can't fix your house. So that's where I'm at. And I think it would be a great courtyard, and that the building has kids' bikes chained to the front porch. It doesn't look safe. I try to tell them that's probably going to fall in, and it just would be better for the street. Vernon's my neighbor. He's about 86. He has a flip phone. He said he probably wasn't going to be able to do Zoom. So, but I did have a letter in my packet that had his support because he rents his property that he bought, and I think it'd be better for the both of us, and that building is sandwiched between our two homes.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank
Ms.
you.
Bancroft.
Thank you. Yeah, we also have a letter of support in favor of demolishing this property. I agree with Ms. Frame that it really is just a blight, not only on herself and her neighbor, but the street itself. Unfortunately, just the length of the vacancy and care before the land bank and port were able to acquire it just was not good for it, and making it possible to continue into the future.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I would say that if you don't demolish it, nature will demolish it probably within the next 18 months. It looked pretty grim. And like you, when I went down to look at it, there were some kids playing on that front porch. Mm-hmm. And one of the neighbors, I pulled up there, and one of the neighbors came over and yelled at that porch.
Right. Yeah.
But anyway, okay. Do we have any questions from the board for staff or the applicant?
No, I would just echo you, Mr. Vice Chair. We always hate to lose contributing buildings, but this one seems like it's a little.
That's exactly right. And that's why I went down to look at that thing. And it was a lot worse than the picture. The picture was bad, but it was worse than the picture.
Yeah.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Vice Chairman, I would make a recommendation that we approve the certificate of appropriateness as laid out by staff.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, take the roll. Mr. Weiss?
Yes.
Mr. Zelasco?
Aye.
Ms. McKenzie?
Aye.
I vote yes also. So that is passed. Yeah.
Thank you.
Don't be jumping up and down in your house, because that might take that baby down.
Yeah.
Mr. Owen, do we have any other business today?
No, we do not.
Okay. That having been said, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for coming down. Mr. Owen, Mr. Sturkey, for your guidance. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.